You all in the wonderful and precious name of the Lord Jesus Christ. My name is Sis Khanyisile and I will be presenting on mental health disorders, focusing on teenagers. Most of the information that I have provided is a build on Sis Charity's presentation, some of the definitions and the stats and references such as the helplines that you can call. She had already provided. I just added a few more. So it is also very important that you just keep also referring to that document for some of those definitions and other references. What is very important when we're speaking of mental health, okay, let me first start with the aim. So the aim and the purpose of this presentation is that we are just conscientized and made aware of the mental health disorders that exist and those that the children, teenagers and young adults may be at risk of experiencing. So it is very important that we understand that some of these disorders are genetic. So sometimes people have a predisposition of developing because maybe it is in their genetic makeup. Some are based on psychosocial circumstances and they lead to the mental health disorder developing. So it is very important that as parents you don't blame yourself when your child experiences mental health disorders. I want us to just have an understanding of that when your child experiences mental health disorders, it's not your fault. You haven't failed them as a parent. Your parenting is not, you're not a bad parent, because that it can also really have a very detrimental effect on a parent. Because the thing of you blame yourself, and you see this a lot in single parents. It's always an issue of I should have done this, I should have done that. But sometimes, to be honest and fair, sometimes it is out of your control, because some of these psychosocial issues may exist outside the home environment, and the child develops a mental health disorder outside from the home circumstances. Yes, sure, at times it is influenced by what is happening at home, which is why it is also important that one of the suggestions that we often make as mental health practitioners is that try and create a home environment that is very comfortable for the child and very happy and healthy, so that they are able to regulate their emotions, they are able to communicate how they feel, they are able to articulate the emotions, so that you can assist them, you can guide them, and you can help them wherever needed. So the challenge with mental health disorders is that they are very difficult to identify in children, because unlike an adult who will actively seek therapeutic services when they feel like they are depressed, at times some don't, and then they need external help where a friend will refer. But the general idea is that an adult will be able to communicate their feelings because they are aware of their feelings. A child will not, at times, or a teenager will not be able to identify how they're feeling because they're also confused. So because of that confusion, they sometimes struggle to communicate that auntie, mama, I am feeling this way, because they don't know what it is as well. So most of the identifying of the symptoms is based on interpretation. So it is very important that we are able to identify signs and symptoms so early, so that we can get the child the relevant assistance that they need. So as parents, the ways that we can identify the behaviors is through, we are very fortunate in this era that there's social media, so you can always just keep tabs. Obviously you also don't want to be snooping around the child's private belongings, like their journals, their diaries, but it is important that you are aware of what they are writing. So their statuses on Facebook, their statuses on WhatsApp, their captions on Instagram, they're on their Twitter feeds. Well, in that sense, we are fortunate in that we have those areas to sort of guide what, okay, this could be, and you analyze and ask, what, oh, I see you wrote this, I'm going through the most. Child, they often speak like that. I'm going through the most. And you're like, okay, what is going on? Ndiyakuwisha. then you go to your child with that information. I go, I see that you wrote X, Y, and Z. What is going on? So the whole idea is that you open that dialogue, that conversation between you and your child, not to how dare you put that on Facebook. So manje suneka i-dirty laundry yakho on Facebook, because that will lead to the child retracting and holding back, where now they block you from their statuses. They reject your friend invite on Facebook, on all the platforms, because you have created that hostility, the lack of trust, that you can't handle the emotion, So it is very important that you also just are aware of how you respond. There's also a growing trend of when a child is going through something where they remove their profile picture and put a blank black profile, or they just have no profile picture at all. Those are just cues that you could also just pick up, what is going on, are you okay? Let's talk about it, because sometimes behaviors that we deem normal and stagey could be the onset or the beginnings of mental health disorders, and those are important that we start nibbing in the bud and talking about. So when your daughter, for example, you see that she's going through fluctuating moods, you start talking to her about it, what's going on, because obviously there are hormone imbalances that she may be experiencing that are resulting in these behaviors, but sometimes they may be going through issues. They may be going through identity issues. They may be going through self-esteem issues. They may be going through conflicts with body changes, body image. And those are things that will come out once you've created that environment that it is okay. Let's talk about this. I see that you're having a bad day. Bring a mat and sit down with them and chat. All right, what's going on, Sissy? I see that you haven't bathed the whole day. What's going on? Instead of the typical shouting and awugezanga, you haven't done this. Even with your boy children, where you see that they are sad, and then you're like, indoda ayikhali, a man doesn't cry, man up. All of those discourses that are engraved in our cultures and in our race and in our beliefs, they sometimes have a detrimental effect on the child's psychological functioning, because men do cry and it is okay. And we must allow our boy children to feel like it's okay to cry. I can cry to my dad. I can cry to my mom. I can cry at home, and it's okay. They are accepting of my emotions. They are okay with my emotions. If I've had a bad day at school, I'm being bullied, I am struggling academically, and I feel like that is affecting my self-esteem, I can articulate that at home without being made to feel like I am less of a boy. I'm being a sissy, So it's all of those things that you just need to be mindful of, the day-to-day behaviors that we do as parents, that could be quite detrimental. So I've highlighted a few disorders that children may go through. Attention deficit disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. This one is typically identified by teachers. So the child will sometimes present as having academic issues or struggle, and the teacher will sometimes they will repeat, and the teacher will start raising concerns around the child's performance. And when you sit with the teacher and you speak with them, they often will say things like, he just won't sit down, he won't he won't follow instructions. It's not that they don't know what to do. They have the mental capacity to do the work, but they're not doing the work because of the lack of concentration, the lack of attention, the impulsivity. And because of that, these children sometimes get into trouble. They will be in the principal's office a lot, and it also raises a lot of frustration in the parent, because you now have this naughty child, or stodi. But the child is not naughty. They are going through something and they need help. So once you pick up those behaviors that I have touched on in the write-up, it is important that you take the child to a psychologist where they'll get a psychological assessment, and then from there, what usually happens is that the psychologist will refer to a psychiatrist for the child to